topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon, Houston. Welcome to another Ask the Experts, where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. This is our 12th year with the Ask the Expert show, and we have two shows for you today. Our first show, we're going to be talking about estate planning, and we were so blessed to get one of the finest estate planning shows in the state of Texas. They've actually been with us for about 5 years, and we get so many people complimenting us on such a great show. We have a stand-in today for Attorney Julia Dean. We've got with us today Attorney William Harlow. Good afternoon, William.
Good afternoon, Steve. How are you doing today?
We're so glad to have you, and we're just going to sit here. We're going to educate people about estate planning. But before we get started, tell us about your background.
Sure. So my little kind of small version of my personal life, I grew up in Alabama, North Alabama, a little town called Decatur.
Where's your accent?
Well, let me get before that. I was born in California, right? My parents are from California, right? So I went to Auburn University for undergrad. Following undergrad, I went to law school. Oh, yes, thanks, War Eagle. I moved to San Diego, California for law school, California Western School of Law. And following law school, I moved to Fresno, California, Fresno area, and I practiced estate planning there for about 3 years before relocating me and my family to Texas. So I have two very small children and a wife, and we are settling in here to Texas. It's been about maybe 3 months since we've been here. So if all goes according to plan, I will be officially licensed in Texas. Let's see, the bar results come out October 6th. So right now I'm California attorney. Soon I could be Tennessee and Texas as well.
Wonderful. I got to tell you, when I heard you just say Fresno, I did a lot of consulting work for the Fresno Bee there.
Oh, okay.
Very big newspaper. Newspapers aren't so big anymore anywhere. Everything has gone to online.
Sure.
And I know Fresno very well. First of all, you're gonna love Houston. What a great city. A little bit bigger than Fresno.
A lot bit bigger.
Yeah. But I know the Dean Law Firm is so glad to have you. This show is an educational show, William, and we really try to educate people, and we don't take for granted that everybody knows, even small things like a will, you think everybody knows about a will, but Julia and I have discussed even big names like Prince never even had a will, which blows me away.
Right.
So let's first of all talk about why a will is so important.
Sure. So a lot of people I guess there's a lot of common conceptions as to what happens to your stuff when you pass away, right? If you're married, if you're single, if you have children. If you have no will, then you're basically relying on the statutes in whatever state you live in to control how your state is disposed when you pass away. It differs from state to state. I've gotten to see, right? I was more familiar with California. Texas is a little bit different. So in one aspect, who gets what and how many shares, right? And then the procedures are also different. So I've learned here in Texas, if you're married with community property, right, joint property between spouses, it doesn't always automatically transfer to the other spouse. Sometimes you have to go through a probate proceeding for half of the estate in order to get it to the surviving spouse. Whereas somewhere like California, community property is very easily transferred to the surviving spouse. So what a will would do is it helps you set out kind of the rules of disposition, right? We're not relying on the default statutes to decide who gets what anymore. We are going to choose who's entitled to what in our state. Now, the will still has to go through probate, still has to be overseen by the judge, right? The disposition of your estate is going to be done through a court proceeding. But with a will, you get to name who your executor is. You get to choose where your stuff is going to go. And you can do other things like waive bond or even set up, trusts for your descendants if they're minors, things like that.
What about a trust?
Sure.
How is that different?
So a trust does a lot of the same things that a will would do. They've become very popular in recent years, maybe the last 30, 40 years or so, living trusts as kind of a will substitute, right? So you can do all the same sorts of things, decide who gets what, leaving trusts or other ways to insulate minors from having money at too young of an age. But the biggest thing is that it's not subject to court proceeding, right? Everything can pass privately through a revocable living trust if it is properly funded, right? There is a little bit of an extra step when you're setting up a trust in retitling all the assets. But overall, the process can be a lot quicker and you can get a lot more done without having to wait on the court calendar and judicial approval for the disposition of an estate. So on a very base level, the difference is the procedures, right? Not dealing with the court.
I got to tell you that kind of sad to say we read about people passing away every day who were very young.
Sure.
And I don't want to get political about it, why I think it's happening, but
Sure.
It happens. We don't ever know if we're going to be here tomorrow or not.
That's true.
So explain to people why estate planning is so important.
So, like you were saying, you don't know when you're going to pass away. You don't know, you always hear the phrase, I don't know if I'm going to get hit by a bus today, right? So you still want to know what's going to happen to your stuff, right? You want to know if it's going to go to your spouse or how it's going to go to. You don't want to leave them with a court proceeding if that can be avoided, right? If you go and do some pre-planning, you can control the disposition of a lot of different things. Another thing to think about is like minor children, things like that. Who's going to take care of them, right? You can appoint guardians and decide, at least nominate, who should have custody of your children in the event you had an untimely passing.
Yeah, it is. It's so important. I always thought that a lot of people, when you hear estate planning, it
Sure.
means you have some big estate,
Right.
and that's not what it's for.
Sure. And I hear that a lot too, people, especially when we discuss living trusts, because I think naturally when we hear trust, we think of like Rockefeller or someone like that, right? oodles and oodles of wealth and finding ways to
exactly
pass it on to the next generation without paying any sort of taxes or anything like that. And then you hear like trust fund kid or something like that. But really, as of late, trusts have become very popular, living trusts, even testamentary trusts, leaving things to your kids in trust, even if you don't have a, Rockefeller-sized estate.
It's saw the other day, William, that somebody was putting a trust to their pet.
Sure.
And you never think about that, but Julia said it's very common.
It is. I think all 50 states now have statutes allowing for pet trusts, if I remember correctly. People love their pets, right? People want to make sure their pets are taken care of. You can set up trusts with certain amounts of money to take care of your pet for your pet's life. Of course, you have to pick a trustee, right? Someone that's willing to kind of do the legwork and manage the money on behalf of the pet. And then you set it up to where when the pet dies or passes away, then the money is distributed per the terms of the trust, maybe to different beneficiaries, children, charities, things like that.
You brought up living trust just a minute ago. That has become, or not even become, it's been a while, but those are very popular.
Very popular.
Explain what a living trust is.
Sure. So a living trust, sometimes you'll hear it referred to as a revocable living trust.
Yes, that's what I've heard so much about.
So revocable living trust, like I was talking about before, that is it's where you're pre-planning and kind of setting up how your estate will be passed on to the next generation or to whomever you choose to send it to after you pass away. And again, you're privatizing everything, so it's not overseen by the court. Now, another advantage of the trust is that it can take care of you if you ever become incapacitated as well. Sometimes when, like a will would only come into effect after you passed away. Whereas a trust can cover you during a period of incapacity, like if you have dementia or Alzheimer's or you're in a coma or something like that, all the way up to the point when you pass away, and then it continues until it's administered per its terms. So it gives you some flexibility to put people in place to pay your bills and take care of you financially during any periods of incapacity. So that's one big advantage to them. Of course, the advantage we spoke of earlier is avoiding court proceedings in disposing of your estate, passing on to the next generation. And there is also a certain amount of tax planning that can be done through a revocable living trust. And as far as estate taxes are concerned.
Have you had a chance to look at, I guess we're going to eventually have some new Texas law coming out with all these tax changes. Are there going to be a lot of tax changes for the state of Texas?
So far as I'm aware, being new here and all, learning the Texas way, Texas doesn't have the income tax.
Yes.
State level doesn't
Which
have.
You're not used to, are you?
No, I'm not. Yes, it does. It also does not have a state level inheritance tax or estate tax. So some states, in addition to the federal government, will levy estate taxes at the state level. There's planning to do for that. Most of those are kind of, if I last remember, I know Oregon, Washington, some of the New England states have those. But down here, California does not even have that tax, by the way. No estate tax there either. So that's one tax that it does not have. So
California doesn't have a state tax?
State level estate tax? No, it does not.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, me too.
They have every other tax there.
That's right. Texas doesn't have that either. So as far as Texas law is concerned, I don't really know. I don't really see any big changes in the state level. What we're looking at right now is the federal level changing, coming up on January 1st, 2026. So the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act 2017 under Donald Trump, it raised the estate tax exemption to 10 million plus inflation per person, right? So right now, this year, adjusted for inflation, it's 12.92 million per person, right? So a lot of people aren't in the estate tax zone, but in 2026, that is going to change. That law is going to sunset and will be reverted back to the previous era, which is going to lower it to 5 million plus inflation. So each person's getting that amount. Now, as far as how to capture that, right, there's different things you can do with a revocable living trust and some pre-death planning to try to make your estate pass without incurring estate taxes. So that's kind of the biggest thing right now is the sunset coming up on January the 1st of 2026.
William, let's talk a little bit about probate.
Okay.
What I love about your firm now with Julia is she tries to keep her clients out of probate.
Right.
Probate can become very expensive. Talk to people about probate.
Okay. So as we talked about kind of towards the beginning of the episode, probate is the default procedure for passing your estate on if you have no trust. Now, if you have a will, you're still dealing in probate, but you've kind of set out some of the rules and the dispositions a little bit differently, but it still has to pass through. Now, in Texas, from the best I understand, if you don't have a will, you have to go through what's called an heirship proceeding, and you have to prove who the heirs are, and do a little bit of investigation to show who's entitled to what and why, right? Whether it's blood relation or marriage or kids, things like that, and you figure out the proportion of the estate that they're entitled to. Then you move on to get letters testamentary, which is the authority the court gives you as the executor to act on behalf of the estate. Then you move towards paying off creditors of the estate and then disposing and distributing assets to the beneficiaries of the estate. Now, if you have a will, you're not dealing as much with that heirship proceeding. You're just going straight to getting the letters and then dealing with the creditors and distributing the assets. Now, it is a very costly process. And then you have to remember as well, for a married couple, a lot of the times you're going to do that twice. When the first spouse passes away and then when the second spouse passes away. Especially if you're not planning for it, right? So effectively, you're doubling your cost of administration with a probate proceeding, and especially one that is planned out.
Very important to take care of that before.
Sure. And one more quick thing to note: if you have property in other states, then like real property, a house or something like that, vacation home. You would have to go through a separate probate proceeding in that jurisdiction, apart from the probate proceeding in the jurisdiction like Texas where you live. So you could potentially be looking at, 2 probates per person if you own property in other states. So it's just something to remember. All that can be consolidated into a trust. And it can be dealt with, in a very streamlined way.
What about the revocable living trust? Doesn't that protect you even more when it comes to probate?
When it comes to probate, yes, if it's properly funded, right? So part of doing the trust, it's kind of a 2-step process. It's creating the trust, the documents, signing them into effect, and then it's putting things into the trust. So we're talking about doing deeds, changing the title of the house from your individual name into the name of your trust. For business interests, it's doing assignments into the trust, or potentially changing your corporate or LLC certificates. And for bank accounts, it's changing the nameplates, signing them over, funding the trust with the bank accounts. Once everything is consolidated in there and streamlined, you're effectively saying, I've planned for how this is going to be disposed. We don't need the court to kind of oversee this. I've already set it out, right? And then, again, with the property in other states, you could put let's say it's a California deed, right? You could put a California deed in your Texas trust and avoid a California probate, in addition to putting your Texas deed in your trust and avoiding the Texas probate. So you're really, really streamlining a lot there.
Well, we have been looking at my phone. We've got a lot of texts coming in, people wanting your phone number. If you're watching us on TV, we've been scrolling the number. But if you're listening on radio or you watch the podcast, it's 281-277-3326. That's 281-277-3326. You can also go to their website, which is juliadeanlaw.com. I got to tell you, we've only got about a minute left before we go to our next expert. You are working with one of the finest estate planning attorneys in the state of Texas, which I'm sure you already know, but Julia is amazing, God sent, and I wish you all the luck. You did really well. I mean, this is like throwing you into the line.
She told me I was going to do this yesterday at about 4 o'clock. So this is the first one I've ever done. So
you did a great job. I hope you'll come back, and thank you so much. That's William Harlow, attorney William Harlow of the Dean Law Firm. Thanks so much, William.
All right. Thank you. It was nice to talk to you, Steve.
Have a good weekend. And we did Julia's show is every other week. And so she'll be not next week, but the week after, she'll be back with us. And our next show, we're going to be talking about debt. And we're going to go to a break. And when we come back, we have our next show.
K. Bender Rembaum is a full-service community association law firm dedicated to the representation of community associations throughout Florida. On kbrlegal.com, you can learn more about their offices in Pompano Beach, Palm Beach Gardens, Orlando, Tampa, as well as throughout Miami-Dade by appointment. Several K. Bender Rembaum attorneys are board-certified specialists in condominium and plan development law and assist clients with all matters of community association legal issues while keeping them up to date on new developments that affect their associations. K. Bender Rembaum is also a well-known provider of free legal education for managers and board members. Contact K. Bender Rembaum today by calling 800-974-0680. That's 800-974-0680 to reach any of their locations. You can also visit them online at kbrlegal.com or write to them at info@kbrlegal.com.
And we are back with the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV with your hosts, Steve-O, Sophia, and their expert guests.
And we're back. We just want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Our next guest, I've actually known for probably 3 years. He's been with us for a long time. Let's bring him on. There he is.
Hey, how you doing,
Hi,
Steve?
John.
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. You look good today. I see you in a suit.
I got my camera over here, but the screen's over there. So if I'm looking kind of shifty, I'm not trying to do so.
You look great, John. And I got to tell you, we've been working together for about 3 years now. And John is my Houston sports connection. And he goes back as far as I do. So we'll start talking about the show, but we always end up talking sports, don't we, John?
We sure do. And honestly, when I was looking through our emails, we go back to 2012.
Wow. I got to tell you, John, that you and I have discussed a lot of the work that you've done, especially in debt relief. And I got to tell you, I'm in awe of you. I think you're one of the finest attorneys when it comes to debt relief, and just the way you take care of your clients. I mean, I think you're the one who they come to you when their first attorney screwed things up for them. They come to you and you get it taken care of for them.
Well, we've been doing it a long time, and I was fortunate enough to be broken in by the guys that sort of invented the defense. So, been doing this for 22 years now, had probably 2,000 or 3,000 cases, maybe more.
Well, let's continue on, because we're kind of introducing you for the first time. Tell people about your background.
Okay, well, my background is I am a litigator, been litigating since 1987 in Harris County, Texas is our primary location throughout the state. With respect to this particular topic we're on, I've been doing it since about 2000, and we've been very successful. We do debts defense with respect to all type of debts. A lot of folks have the credit card debt, so we do a lot of credit card cases. We Amex, Citibank, Bank of America, Discover, Wells Fargo. And then there's a lot of these folks called the debt buyers. They're kind of a strange breed, and they'll actually buy credit card debt from these particular banks. And we handle Midland Credit Management. We do stuff with LVNV portfolio, just about any of them.
Well, John, first of all, the name of your company is Texas Debt Defense. I've already gotten 2 text messages. What is your phone number?
Scrolling underneath there. Oh, there we go. Okay. No, I don't have my little scroll you asked me for. It says.
What is your phone? Yeah. What is your phone number?
My phone number that we use is 713-665-1777. And the name of our website is TexasDebtDefense.com.
Well, we're going to get that up right now. Let's start off with, I guess, what is the biggest problem you're seeing now with the economy the way it is as to people with debt right now?
Well, a lot of the things I'm seeing is, the economy tanked pretty bad with COVID and different situations. So people that were able to keep up with their credit card debt might have missed a payment here or there. And the interest went from a nice 9% all the way up to 30%, which is basically not necessarily increasing their monthly payment, but the length of the payments. So you've got people that at one time that thought they were going to get rid of this in 4 or 5 years. Some of them are as long as 20, 25 years. People give old guys like you and me a credit card now, and if we put 10 grand on there, we make the minimum payment, we're going to be not paying it back till we're in our mid 80s. So it's a problem we see, and it's hurting.
Well, I'll ask you a question, John. This is probably, you get this all the time. For someone who says, I can't afford my bills, how can they afford Texas Debt Defense?
They really need to afford Texas Debt Defense. It's like the guy that can't afford to get his car fixed, but if he doesn't get his car fixed, then he can't go to work, and it snowballs. So many people, yes, they do owe the debt, and I'm for paying debts and different things like that. But if you and me walk into the bank right now and say, hey, we'd like to get a CD at 30%, they're going to throw a net over our heads. That's the problem. They lure these people in, either the 6 months of the 0 interest, or let's get an upgrade at Disneyland and different things like that. And they get them caught there. And the people think there's no way around it. But fortunately, we still have laws, especially here in Texas, that require them to have to prove the debt. And with proving the debt, it's very difficult in terms of getting all the paperwork together and bringing the creditor down here. If you got an experienced lawyer that knows what they're doing. Then you got somebody like me that's been doing it so long, they know I'm going to give them a nightmare of a battle. They know that the other folks that they have that haven't hired anybody are sitting there waiting behind me. So they're going to try and settle our cases and get us out of the way so they can take the default judgments or go after the other folks that don't have a lawyer.
How does this hurt someone's credit score?
It's going to hurt your credit score in a way that it's going to say that you're going to be paying as agreed rather than paid in full. And it will hurt your credit score, but will it really hurt your financial profile in the long run? If, say, for example, you're in credit card debt to 50, 100 grand, we see that a lot. Most people are in 20 to 60,000, and they don't have the actual financial wherewithal to borrow any more money. So they're paying this 4% minimum payment, 3 to 4% is the number a month. They're paying it over and over and over, and that principal's not reducing whatsoever. So in essence, they're just throwing good money after bad. The credit card companies themselves are the ones that hurt your credit because you can't go up to them and go, I'm about to lose my job. My wife is sick. I'm not making the kind of money I could make. Is there a way we can work something out? And they're going to tell you you got to wait 90 days to talk to them. So they ruin your very credit that they're the ones that gave you. But the most important thing, Steve, and I know I'm rambling a little here, but the most important thing,
you're doing fine,
that 4% a month or 3% a month, if you save that and put it aside and you get somebody like myself or a lot of other good lawyers here in Houston and throughout the state of Texas, we cover the whole state here, giving myself a little plug, but we are able to settle for 30, 40% or even less. So you stop that interest. So if you're setting that minimum payment aside 4% for 12 months, you got 48% of the principal there, and you're able to just settle it right away. So yes, your credit score goes down, but there's more money for your family. And
right.
Why do you want to preserve an 800 credit score to pay the credit card company if you can't? A long time ago, go ahead.
Yeah, I know what I like about you and your firms is, somebody can say, well, I can do this myself. I can talk to the creditor myself and save myself from paying a lawyer. But as a lawyer, you know all the ins and outs. You know what you can do and what you can't do. And if I'm on the other end and I'm talking to either a person who's never done this before versus an attorney like yourself, the attorney like yourself is going to save me a lot of money in the long run.
Not only am I going to save you a lot of money in the long run, I'm going to save you a lot of grief, because you're going to be calling up and you're going to be getting call centers. You're going to be getting people all over the place. You're not going to get the decision maker, number one. Number two, I know the lawyers. When I say you have a case and you need to get it settled, I'm going to pull up the case on the computer, take a picture of it, and text it to one of the owners of the law firms that are suing you and say, hey, let's get about 10 of these together. Let's talk on a Saturday here and get rid of them all. So I know who to go to. There's no waiting for the middleman in between. And another good thing is there's a lot of good people. The good thing, bad things happen to good people. A lot of it is baited. I look at the credit card companies almost like giving a guy a marker at the casino that's had too many scotches. They're just going to keep them playing and playing and playing. But they're good people, and I can tell the lawyer, I go on the other side, I believe in this guy. I know you had to sue him, but let's keep his legal fees down, and let's give him an opportunity between now and this trial date to save some money so he can actually put a down payment down and get your guys happy. And these are the things that they're not going to do with an individual. They're going to steamroll you, and you're not going to understand how to handle it. You have rights, but you got to have an attorney like me to demand to enforce them.
Oh, I so agree with that. John, what about, here's something else. You might have to declare bankruptcy. You've got to have an attorney for that.
Yes, you need an attorney. We do a little bit of bankruptcy, not a lot of it. We work in conjunction with the bankruptcy courts, but bankruptcy isn't what it once was. You think Chapter 11 is a bankruptcy sort of for a corporation to organize itself in that. That's not something that we're dealing with consumer credit card debt or debt, even on the business level. So you need to get yourself a Chapter 7 discharge. Number one, the stigma of bankruptcy is going to kill you. You talk about hurting your credit, you go bankrupt, and you try to, get something back. Number two, but more importantly, they're going to put you in what's called the Chapter 13 bankruptcy. And that's a horrible, horrible thing to have. Now, I can't talk about other states because I don't know their collection laws. But in Texas, we're what they call a homestead state. This is one of the toughest states for anybody to try and collect the debt with. So, in essence, you're putting yourself in bankruptcy. You're going to get stuck in the 13 more than likely. And when you're in the 13 and you don't make your payments, which is going to be paying 100% of that debt back, it's just going to be over a different time frame. You're going to have a federal bankruptcy trustee up your you-know-what, making sure you make those payments. You do something with us, number one, we're going to get you a discount. And number two, if you can't make the payments, you don't have somebody like that coming after you. So, it's just better all around. And of course, if someone's a candidate for bankruptcy, we're here for the long run. We want to make people happy. We're not going to put them in our program if they can easily qualify for a Chapter 7. And we have relationships with bankruptcy lawyers. We get referred a lot of cases, and we refer a lot to them.
We just got a text from a listener, Peter in Friendswood. He wants to know, should he be making minimum payments?
That's a tough question. If he's in the process of buying a house or trying to do something where you need that credit for the short term and things, yes. If he's going to be I don't know his age. I don't know if he's making that minimum payment to the disadvantage of potentially, paying for medical for a child or something. I think the best thing, if Peter wants to know that, because everything is idiosyncratic. Everything has to do with something specific, So if he wants to we offer free consultation, so we understand, people and their needs. And if he wants to give us a call, we'll give him a free consultation, look into his situation, and help him based on everything he's got going on around him.
John, something else that I've talked to you about, what I love about, you representing, is this is basically all you do. This and tax resolution. This is it. You go to some of these attorneys and they're a personal injury, they're a family law, they got a whole shingle of different areas that they represent. You concentrate in one area.
We concentrate in civil litigation. We do some pretty high-end cases and things, but yes, majority of the practice, and been doing it so long, is with respect to the credit card docket and knowing the rules of civil procedure, knowing the courts, which is very important. One guy might be saying, hey, we're going to win this case easily, and it could be the exact same group of documents, but we're in a different county, where we gotta, do it a different way. But regardless of where you're at, we're going to be able to alleviate 95% of the folks' problem and get them the best resolution, even when we factor in what we've been paid. Because, obviously you don't want to pay me $1,000 to have me reduce your debt by 500. We take pride in getting the lowest number, including our fee.
Here's another one. This is Troy in Huntsville wants to know if your firm handles businesses.
Yes, we do a lot of business debt. We do a lot of business debt, Troy. That's a good question. A lot of folks, they've got these companies that'll factor the receivables. We had one the other day where they took $40,000 worth of our company's receivables, pretend it's not a loan, call it a factoring arrangement, so they can get around the usury laws, which are laws to protect high interest. Give the poor people $38,000 of the $45,000 they factored, and then make them pay, every couple weeks. So yes, we do a lot of business debt. We restructure. We also know how to do asset protection if you've got any issues. I work with Finest Cowan. He's been doing the tax stuff for years. So we're full service when it comes to the business or the consumer with debt. Yes, sir.
Now, once somebody has you represent them, they don't have to talk to the bill collectors anymore, do they?
No. And in the old days, that used to be great because the bill collectors would call you 24/7 and drive you crazy. Now people are getting used to getting driven crazy. I'm sure everybody out there is getting calls for their car warranty, their Medicare benefits, their death benefits. I mean, I get so many calls, and I'm trying to figure out a way to sue those guys, but you can't even talk to them long enough to get any information from them. So I think they're all scam calls. But the most important thing is we do talk to your creditors for you. We can't admit something against your interest away. And we're that buffer because you don't want to stick your head in the sand and then pop back out and the entire world's changed. You can stick your head in the sand and we'll take care of everything for you, and we'll whisper and let you know what's going on, when to pop your head back up.
Listen, we just had, this is from Carol in Sugar Land. She wants to know, she said, I missed the first part of your show. Can you tell me all the different areas of debt you handle? And before you do that, John, I want people to know you can go back to YouTube and just go to Ask the Experts Houston, and you can watch today's show at any time, or you can go to iHeart, and they keep the shows in their library. You can go back and watch or listen to either way, but they missed the first part of the show, and they want to know all the areas of debt that you represent. Well,
we represent all the spectrums. We've got my website right here. This TexasDebtDefense.com, and that'll give you an example. I'm not trying to not answer a question, but we do credit card debt, we do student loans, we do business debt, we do tax debt, we help people with car repossessions, boat repossessions, just about every aspect of debt we do. And coincidentally, so do the debt collection firms. So our relationships and stuff work out well both ways. And again, was it Carol in Sugar Land, you said?
Yes.
Carol, why don't you give us a call? The numbers are here. He's got two different ones. He's got my buddy Finest Cowan's up there, but they ring to the same number. And give us a call, and we'll help you. Free consultation if you missed the first half of the show. And we're a lot better than those debt buyers. Steve hasn't asked me anything about that. He usually does. Not debt buyers.
Well, I got to tell you, John and I have had so many conversations, and I am so impressed. He'll tell me about a case. Of course, he's not using anybody's name or anything, but he'll tell me about a case, and I'll think it's impossible. And he tells me how he got rid of the case for them, which is, I guess that's why I'm such a big fan of John's. If you have a debt problem, listen, if John can't take care of it, no one can. I am telling you, he is that good at what he does. John, give everybody your phone number again.
Okay, the number is 713-665-1777, and we're at TexasDebtDefense.com is the website. And I want to tell everybody, my buddy over here, he's got his camera way to the left, so I'm trying to make sure I'm looking into the camera, but then I can't see which way I'm looking. We do this in depositions. We'll sit to the side of the witness so his head's always crooked, so it looks like he's not as telling the truth and lacks veracity. But in this particular case, I'm giving the disclaimer. My camera's over here and my picture's over there.
Well, we so appreciate you. John is with us every month. We will be letting you know when the next show comes up. And again, you can go back and watch today's show on YouTube or on iHeart. John, thank you, bro.
One more thing.
Sure.
I know it's hot out there, everybody, and it's getting a little cooler, but, you need to call our law firm so you don't sweat that debt. We'll definitely be able to help you.
You're my man. I love you, bro. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next month, John.
Thank you, Steve. Bye-bye.
That's John Mastriani. He is so good, folks. If you've got any kind of debt, trust me, he is so good at what he does. I'm going to give you his number again. It's 713-665-1777. That's John Mastriani. And we'll be back again with you next month with more Ask the Experts. Have a good week.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.